You checked your bank account today. The number looked fine. Not great, but fine. And still, the idea of moving any of it into the market felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. That feeling has a name, and it is not stupidity. It is not laziness. It is something far older than the stock market, far older than money itself, and it has been quietly steering your financial decisions your entire life without you ever noticing. Here is what nobody tells you about fear and investing. The problem is not the market. The problem is your brain. And your brain was not built for wealth. It was built for survival. Think about that for a moment. Every instinct you have was designed to keep you alive in a world that no longer exists. A world where the wrong move meant death. Where losing something meant you starved. Where safety was the only goal that mattered. Your brain still runs that same software today. And when it sees your money moving towards something uncertain, it fires every alarm it has. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying exactly this. He and his research partner Amos Tversky discovered something in the 1970s that changed how the world understood human decision-making. They called it loss aversion. The core finding was simple and devastating. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. Losing $100 produces nearly double the emotional pain of the pleasure you feel gaining $100. Your brain is not wired for rational calculation. It is wired to avoid loss at almost any cost. So when you look at an investment and your mind immediately jumps to what if I lose it all, that is not a flaw in your thinking. That is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you. The tragedy is that in a world where wealth is built through calculated risk over time, a brain optimized for short-term survival is working against you every single day. Now imagine a person. Call him Marcus. Marcus is 32 years old. He works a solid job. He saves a little each month. His coworker keeps talking about index funds. His sister-in-law made 12% last year. His phone shows him ads for trading apps every morning. Everyone around him seems to be investing. And Marcus keeps saying he will start soon. Soon becomes 6 months. 6 months becomes 2 years. 2 years becomes a decade of watching his savings sit in an account earning almost nothing while everything around him gets more expensive. Marcus is not foolish. He is not bad with money. Marcus is experiencing something that behavioral economists call status quo bias. Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for his work on human financial behavior, identified this tendency in people decades ago. We are powerfully drawn to keeping things the way they are. Doing nothing feels safe. Doing something feels like exposure. Even when doing nothing is the more dangerous choice in the long run, the brain registers action as risk and inaction as safety. That illusion costs people more money over a lifetime than almost any bad investment ever could. But here is where it gets stranger. The fear of investing is not just about loss. It is also about identity, about what you believe you deserve, about stories you were told as a child, directly and indirectly about money and who it belongs to. Think about the messages you absorbed growing up. Maybe money was always tight. Maybe the adults around you treated investing as something other people did. Richer people, luckier people, people with connections and knowledge and a safety net you did not have. If that is the water you swam in, then today, when you sit down to open a brokerage account, some part of you does not just fear losing money. Some part of you fears stepping into a world that was never supposed to include you. That fear is quieter than loss aversion, but it runs much deeper. Robert Shiller, the Yale economist and Nobel laureate who predicted both the dot-com crash and the 2008 housing crisis, has written extensively about the role of narrative in financial behavior. He argues that the stories we tell ourselves about the economy, about markets, about our own place in the financial world shape our behavior more powerfully than data ever does. The story that markets are a casino, the story that ordinary people always lose, the story that investing is gambling with a fancier name. These narratives spread through families and communities and decades, and they keep entire generations on the sidelines while wealth quietly compounds elsewhere. And the market does nothing to help. Every time you open a financial news channel, someone is yelling about a crash. Every headline is a warning. Every market dip becomes a disaster in the framing of people whose job it is to keep you watching. Your brain, already primed to fear loss, absorbs every one of those signals and catalogs them as evidence. See? It is dangerous. See? People lose everything. See? Stay away. What your brain never naturally catalogs is the long view. The investor who put money into a broad market index in 1990 and left it alone watched it grow through crashes, recessions, pandemics, and political chaos into something many times its original size. Not because they were brave, not because they had superior knowledge, but because they understood one thing that your fear-driven brain refuses to accept. Time in the market almost always defeats timing the market. The risk of waiting is almost always greater than the risk of starting. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard and the person most responsible for making low-cost index investing accessible to ordinary people, said something that still echoes through every honest conversation about wealth. He said that the stock market is a giant distraction from the business of investing. The noise is not the investment. The news is not the data. The fear the market generates on any given Tuesday has almost no relationship to where your money will be in 20 years. So why does the fear persist even after you know all of this? Even after you understand loss aversion and status quo bias and the historical performance of long-term investing, why does the cursor still hover over the confirm button? Because knowledge does not rewire the nervous system. Understanding a cognitive bias intellectually does not make you immune to it. Your brain will still feel the fear. The goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is to act anyway, to set up the automatic transfer, to start with an amount so small your loss aversion barely registers it, to make the first move before your brain has time to build a case against it. Warren Buffett has said that the most important quality in an investor is temperament, not intellect, not analysis, not research, temperament. The ability to sit with uncertainty, the ability to act despite discomfort, the ability to let time do work that your anxiety wants to undo every morning when you check the news. The fear you feel about investing is real. It is ancient. It is woven into the same wiring that kept your ancestors alive. But your ancestors were not trying to retire. They were not trying to build generational wealth. They were trying to survive the next season. You are playing a completely different game, and the tools that won that game will lose this one. The single most dangerous financial move most people make is not a bad stock pick. It is not a risky bet. It is the decade of paralysis. The years spent on the sideline feeling safe, while inflation quietly reduces the real value of every dollar sitting still. Safety, when it means inaction, is one of the most expensive things you will ever buy. So here is where you actually are, not at the edge of a cliff. That image your brain handed you was a lie it told to protect you. You are standing at the beginning of a path, a long one, a slow one that offers no guarantees but has historically and repeatedly rewarded the people who chose to walk it over the people who stood still and waited for the fear to disappear. The fear does not disappear. That is the truth nobody selling you a course will admit. The fear is part of the walk. You take the step anyway, and the next one. And somewhere along the way, your brain slowly starts to update its model of what safety actually means. You checked your bank account today. The number looked fine, but fine is not a plan. Fine is just the feeling your nervous system invented to keep you from stepping off that imaginary cliff. The cliff was never real. The path always was.